the space between. The house felt too quiet for Claire, even though it had always been this way. The silence was different now. Her hands trembled slightly as she wiped down the kitchen counter, an act that had once been comforting. It had been 2 weeks since she had been in the hospital, but time felt like it had either stood still or moved too fast. Nothing seemed to belong to her anymore. Not the bright morning sunlight that filtered through the curtains, not the smell of coffee brewing, not even the smell of fresh-baked bread that once made her feel safe. She sat at the kitchen table staring at the empty space in front of her. A small pink onesie lay draped across the chair, a gift from her sister, bought in the first days of her pregnancy when Claire had still believed that the world was full of possibilities. She had been so full of hope, so sure that this time would be different, that everything would work out. Claire had dreamed of the life that would be waiting for her, of soft baby breaths, little fingers grasping her hand, and the weight of her newborn in her arms. But the dreams had crumbled like dust in her hands. She hadn't even known how to feel when the doctor had said the words, the ones that no mother should ever hear. "There is no heartbeat," the doctor had said, her voice low, her eyes full of sympathy. It had been her first miscarriage. No warning, just the overwhelming silence of her body. Her world had tilted and shifted, and the bright future she had envisioned had evaporated like a fog under the harsh light of reality. Now, in the aftermath, everything felt wrong. It wasn't just the baby she had lost. It was the vision of herself as a mother, a woman who would nurture life into this world, a protector. In the stillness, her grief swirled around her in an aching, suffocating fog. She had been pregnant for only a few months, but in those months she had already begun to see the world through a different lens. She had felt more connected to herself, to the idea of becoming someone new. But now that version of her was gone. That person didn't exist anymore. She had become someone else, someone who didn't know how to answer when friends asked how she was doing. How could she explain this kind of loss? A loss no one could see, a wound no one could touch. Her phone buzzed on the table, but she didn't pick it up. She didn't want to talk to anyone. Not yet. She wasn't ready for the forced smiles, the well-meaning "it'll be okay" reassurances. Nothing would ever be okay, not in the way they wanted it to be. The sun moved lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the room. Claire stood up and walked to the window. The garden outside, once filled with plans for playdates and toys strewn across the grass, now felt like another world entirely. A life that might have been. And yet, in the quiet, there was a faint glimmer of something. She wasn't sure what it was yet. Perhaps it was the realization that grief would not always be this sharp, this raw. Perhaps it was the small, fragile spark of hope that one day she would be ready to try again, to welcome life into her world. But for now, there was nothing to do but breathe and wait and let time carve its way forward.